That was pretty good. That was when the other guy who was in The Wire, that was when he had that like conflict and
With the table.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Jamie Hudson.
Yeah, he's good too. Yeah, that was good. He was in that series in like a different role. Yeah.
So between the movie thing and just really meeting a lot of phenomenal people, like the podcast is just blown.
Yeah, that's good, man.
And it being, law enforcement based and just us not being robots, us being real individuals, and calling it for what it is. People love that realness of it, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's for everybody though. Everybody has a voice.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. We started a podcast here in September as well. We have a couple different shows that we do, but not in the format that you guys do, kind of the conversational interviews. And, so we have like a true crime kind of series that we do called Law and Disorder, where Anna, who's with you guys today, she does that. And it's more of like a factual kind of account of, different crimes that took place. And then we do some interviews, like one-on-one interviews, and then officer safety and wellness topics and, things like that. So it's growing. It's interesting to see kind of how, I don't think we expected it to like jump off immediately, but it was like tick, tick, tick. And we're like, man, where is everybody? Like we have this huge audience, and why isn't anybody listening to this? But it really, grows. And we started a series where, we have law enforcement and their family members interviewing each other and talking to each other about the experience of, the having a law enforcement officer in the family and, as a dad or as a, mom. And Bill and his wife as a spouse, they did one. It's actually one of our most popular episodes. Yeah, very dynamic. So do that. So, it kind of in the same way, it's just about introducing law enforcement officers to people in a different way than when they normally interact with them.
Absolutely.
So.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, we gotta come back and get on the podcast. Yeah, more than welcome to come on ours as well.
Yeah. That'd be good. Yeah.
Love to do that. Are you ready? Perfect. Silverback Chronicles Podcast. It's your boy Big H. I got my brother Dre.
Okay.
Triple C.
Yo.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for keep tuning in. Always tell a friend and tell a friend. We have a special episode today. We are live, guys. Live in the nation's capital with the National Law Enforcement Officers Museum. This was an amazing experience for all of us. It's breathtaking. We got amazing men that brought this to the table for us, and you guys are gonna love it. What you got, Dre? How you feel about it?
We love it. I mean, the museum. Just walking through the museum, everyone that's put on the uniform has to come to this museum. It's just special.
Yeah.
I'm speechless. Seriously, thank you.
Just the content and everything else, it really, it's different when you're doing the job, but when you come here and you just see the memories of the forefront where law enforcement began and where it's continuing to go, and just everything that law enforcement in life, it's a beautiful thing. Just, oh man, I'm speechless at times just walking around just to see how, just oh man, just from the beginning, and just see where we are now today, in this day and age with law enforcement, and it's just a beautiful experience. So with no further ado, guys, please tell the world where you're from, born and raised. Sir, I'll start with you.
My name is Bill Alexander.
Okay.
I'm the executive director of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, which you all saw outside as we were walking in. I'm sure you have been here many times.
Yes.
Yes.
I started my law enforcement career about 30 years ago. I was in the Air Force as a security police officer, and I was stationed at, of all places, Andrews Air Force Base. I grew up in Northern Virginia, and that's why I'm joking. So I thought I was going to go see the world, and I got stationed at the closest Air Force base to my original hometown. Right. Andrews Air Force Base is in Prince George's County, as I'm sure both of you know.
Right.
And so I recognized pretty quickly that while I had an intense interest in law enforcement as a career, there was a vast chasm of difference between being a military police officer and a police officer in the civilian world.
For sure.
So I could see Prince George's County police officers doing real police work right outside the main gate. Mm-hmm. And so I applied for the Prince George's County Police Department. I was very lucky at the time. Of course, this was 26 or 27 years ago.
Wow.
Every single open spot, even like at the time it was in Baltimore, there were thousands of applicants. So I consider myself incredibly lucky to be selected. And I just finished a 25-year career with Prince George's County about a year and 2 months ago to take this job. Very humbled to be a part of this organization and to help represent the men and women who all three of us know, whose names are outside on those very sacred walls.
Absolutely.
So that's a high-level overview of me.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Means everything. 25 years. Wow. Good, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Thomas Canavan. I'm the executive director for the National Law Enforcement Museum. And I was born here in D.C. Majority of my family is from D.C., but I was raised in Prince George's County. And my background's actually in fine arts and nonprofit management. So I studied a lot about museums. I've always been a huge kind of museum person and spent a lot of time in museums. And so when the opportunity to be the executive director of the National Law Enforcement Museum came up, I thought this would be a worthy challenge of my skills and experience. And this has been one of the most eye-opening, enlightening experiences I think I've ever had professionally, and it's been just a remarkable opportunity to learn about a profession that everyone has really formed a lot of opinions around, to learn more about what happens within the law enforcement community and to learn more about officers, and to be able to sit here at this table with you all who, put your life on the lines for everybody out there every day. And so whatever I can do here within the museum to help tell that story is what I'm here to do.
Well, you've done a phenomenal job, because as you're walking through the space, it's so detailed and meticulous. You guys knocked it out of the park, seriously.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just the simulators, the accounts on the walls. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
What was your experience, or even if you didn't have any experience, but what was your insight on law enforcement prior to doing this? And then what is it now?
All right. Well, so I had a lot of different experiences.
Good or bad?
with
Doesn't
law
matter.
enforcement. I had both.
Right.
I've had good experiences where there was understanding, like, okay, well, don't do this again, type of things. And then there were experiences that I had that led me to form some pretty concrete opinions, about law enforcement in a way that just kind of is what it is.
Right.
So without going into too much detail, I had both experiences,
Right.
Good and bad.
Right. That's life.
Yeah.
In life, you can experience both.
Yeah.
It's a case by case.
Yeah. And I think that's why the challenge to come here, right, was so profound. Right?
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And that's really what, when I talk to a lot of people, I, talk to them about challenging some of their assumptions. Being able to learn more. And one of the things that I did learn, and I learned it really quickly, was just how diverse ideology is within law enforcement itself, right? Everybody, it's as diverse as the rest of the country.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's made up of people from within this country, right? So you have Republicans, you have Democrats, right? You have people of all faiths, and you have people who have varying opinions on how law enforcement should be enforced. And so I think learning that from the get-go was really eye-opening, and that's one of those things where I hope more people come here to discover that and then apply that, right? And that's one of the things I think we hope for as an organization, is that when people come here and learn about the sacrifice of the fallen officers, as well as just knowledge of the law enforcement profession, you take that back into your community and you share that with your family. And then the next time you have an interaction with an officer, you know a little bit more about what that person is experiencing on a daily basis, right? And so then that changes, and now all of a sudden, you bring empathy to the table, and and can start to have a better relationship.
Was you able to do the simulator before?
Not before I worked here, but
What was your perspective when you actually saw it done?
Well, so one of the things that that I experienced, which a lot of people do, and I'm going to mess up the terminology, right? But when you get that tunnel vision,
Sorry,
right?
that's it. You got it.
You know, and so it's like that sensory something exclusion, right? So you don't hear things, right? Or you don't see things that are happening, and then all of a sudden you're in a situation that's a lot of stress, and you have to be able to respond in a certain amount of time to protect the people around you, right? And that to me was just eye-opening. One, how do you train and prepare for that?
Right.
And then you think back to situations that you see on TV. You start to just process things a little bit differently when it comes to situations, right? And you hear somebody like, oh, well, how, why'd they do that, or why'd they do that? And I'm just like, oh, you need to learn more,
Absolutely.
about what's going on and how they're trained. And that's one of the things why the use of force simulator is really a unique experience, because it's taught by former law enforcement, academy trainers and officers, and they walk you through, this is why, this is the expectation of us, this is how we're trained, and this is why we make certain decisions in those moments. And so I think that's a really just enlightening opportunity for everybody.
It is. Those guys were great.
Yeah.
They were
It's
great.
eye-opening for a lot of people.
It is.
Yeah.
Gives you a better understanding of the job.
Yep.
And what officers go
It's a
through.
humbling experience
Yeah, it is.
for civilians as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, good sir, what was your why with joining the job and doing it?
I always just, even from a young kid, I always had such an intense interest in all things law enforcement. I remember watching TV with my grandfather. We would watch Chips. Of course, that's
Classic.
Yeah.
California Highway Patrol. I just always thought it was such an amazing opportunity to have a career which was not going to the same office every day and doing the same sort of rote, menial job, whatever that would turn out to be. Not that there's any
Routine,
bad
right.
work, but routine. And I just always thought it was, in part, exciting to potentially do something new every day, and also just an amazing opportunity to enter a career where you're doing something to give back to your community, to serve
Sure.
the people around you, and to act as a force for good. Even from my earliest years, but certainly all the way through my career, I have always believed and continue to believe that law enforcement has been and continues to be a force for good, on balance. Not that I hope you guys won't begrudge me saying words like we, us, our when I refer to what I still think of as our profession. Not that our profession has not made mistakes, not that we have nothing to atone for over the last 250 years, but I feel really down to my bones that we in law enforcement have been and continue to do good things for this country, for our communities that we work for. And I felt that way as strongly as I ever have all the way through the end of my career. And now that I'm here at the Memorial Fund, I feel it even more strongly. I mean, it's very hard to walk through the memorial outside, be surrounded by the names of what is now 23,785 names of the men and women, of the heroes who have died in the line of duty, and somehow think that their loss has been for nothing, or that on net their loss has been and part of a cause of overwhelming negative action by law enforcement professionals across the country. I just don't believe it. I mean, men like you, men and women just like you, in uniform today out there on the streets are trying to do the right thing. And I really do fundamentally believe that most law enforcement professionals are out there trying to do the right thing. And by and large, they are doing the right thing, and they're having an impact.
Right. I know Police Week is coming up, and the memorial, you mentioned the names that have fallen. How many are you adding to this year?
We just added 556. You all just missed it, but the engravers just finished yesterday.
Oh,
so
wow.
it was about 2 weeks. They added 556 names. 224 of those names are from calendar year 2022, and the remainder are from years prior.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. And is that number up from what you guys have seen in the past?
Historically, we would, as the Memorial Fund, we would see somewhere around 200 and 250 on any given year. That in part includes the prior calendar year, and it also in part includes what we refer to as historical deaths that were sort of lost to time, but every single year we continue to find dozens of new names of the men and women who died over the last 250 years. But over the last 3 years specifically, COVID has really ramped that number up.
Really?
So last year we added 619 names. About half of those names were COVID related. This year, out of the 556, probably 35 or 40% of those are related to COVID. So the number is impacted really dramatically by COVID. COVID deaths are dropping, so we are seeing a trend downward there. But obviously, 556 names and 619 last year, that's staggering. I mean, a really, really staggering number, and really outside the norm of what we would historically see in any given year.
So your time on the job, how was it mentally? What did it do for you in the beginning and towards retirement? Was it hard to compartmentalize things that you experienced?
Yeah, Thomas referenced just a little bit ago, my wife and I, we were just sitting here a month ago recording this podcast, and it was one of our questions, like how do police officers, how do young law enforcement professionals find a way to sort of segregate their work life from their home life? How do you avoid it spilling over? And so what I told her was, in my mind, there's just no question that law enforcement professionals find a way to compartmentalize the worst aspects of our job.
Right.
Not that you want to completely compartmentalize it. I think your spouse or partner, to some degree, has probably said to the law enforcement professional in their lives, hey, part of the bargain here is that I want to be able to share with those moments and the hard times that you're experiencing, to sort of carry some of that emotional burden. So I think it's incumbent on young law enforcement professionals to find a way to share some aspect of that. But one of the things I told my wife was there were certainly times in my career, and I'm sure in every law enforcement professional officer's career, you see things on the job that are very tough. You see people in the worst moments of their lives. You see tragedy and violence and chaos. You see death and destruction, particularly with families and young kids. Maybe you're involved in some part of that violence yourself, maybe an officer-involved shooting. And there are certainly at least a half dozen of my careers where I can remember feeling very acutely in intense danger. And I don't know that as a young law enforcement professional or at any time in your career, you run home to relay that level of danger to the people who care about you, because in my mind, that really ratchets up their stress.
Exactly.
It does.
So I don't know that you run home and tell your spouse, I was certain that I was going to get shot and killed today.
Absolutely.
I don't know that you do that.
Yeah, definitely. What outlets did you have?
I was always a tech geek, so computers were to some degree my outlet. And another thing that I told my wife, and I'm certain that this is equally the same with you, is the men and women that you work with, the very strands become the strands in the fabric of something way more than just your professional life. They become part of the fabric of your life.
Absolutely.
The co-workers are not just co-workers. They are men and women who you form bonds with that are closer in many cases even than your family.
Yep.
Right.
And so for me, that really was my outlet. The ability to bond with those men and women, to know that their lives were in my hands to some degree and my life was in theirs, and our ability to forge those strong bonds, to share stories, to know that we were in the danger together when there was danger, to know that we were in the good times together too, and the times that we were able to help either individually or some segment of the community. And, occasionally we might have a beverage or two.
Absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
For me, that really was my stress reliever. Knowing that I was bonded in part with a group of men and women who cared just as much as I did, and all of us were in it together.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Why the museum for you?
Well, I retired just over a year ago. I swore to myself and to my wife and anyone who would listen, I am not going to take a job in D.C. after I retire.
Was you going to take at least a year off or 6 months just to relax and?
I said to my wife, I think I might take a couple months off, and my wife said, no, that's not going to happen. You're getting back to work.
Can't be at home all day every day.
I'm giving her a hard time here. The reality is, she likely would have given me. I'm saying it wrong. It's not like she would have given me, but she would have allowed me as much time as I wanted to decompress after 25 years in law enforcement.
Right.
But this job came open. A friend of mine, also in law enforcement, also retired, said, hey, this job at the memorial's come open. You should put your name in the hat. And so I did. And then, honestly, not that I wasn't capable. I left Prince George's County as a major. I retired in command of the academy. I had serious commands before that. Not that I thought I wasn't mentally or physically or professionally capable of running this job, but this is the kind of job that would draw in some heavy hitters.
Right.
So when I put my name in the ring, I was thinking, this is the kind of job that will draw in chiefs of police from across the country.
Right.
Titans within our law enforcement profession will be putting their name in the ring. And again, not that I didn't think I was capable, but I didn't seriously think that out of that level of contention or, competition that I would rise to the top. So when the CEO here, Marsha Ferranto, when she called me and said, the job is yours if you want it, this is the job that could get you to drive into DC every day. And just, I'm incredibly humbled. Just more than I can express in any meaningful way, how humbling it is to be here, to be a part of this organization, and to represent the men and women that all three of us know whose names are out there. And obviously I'm just one peg and among many, all of us here working collectively on behalf of the Memorial Fund. And when visitors come here, I say it's more than just us here at the Memorial Fund who have a responsibility. It's all of us in the profession of law enforcement, and it's all of us in the country, at least I feel. There's a quote out there on the southwest corner of the wall from George Bush at the inauguration of the memorial, and it says, "Carved on these walls is the story of America, a continuing quest to preserve both democracy and decency, and to protect the national treasure that we call the American dream."
Wow.
Sitting right here, the men and women who are protecting the national dream, our American dream, preserving our democracy. And I think that part of our responsibility here at the Memorial Fund, our responsibility in terms of us in the profession, and all of us as citizens of this country, is to remember the cost of what it costs this nation each year to protect that democracy. And unfortunately and tragically, it's measured every single year in hundreds of lives, lives whose names are memorialized out on the memorial. So that for me, there's nothing I wouldn't do for this organization, for those sacred walls outside, and certainly driving an hour into and north each day from DC is the least of the sacrifices I would make for this place.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
It's an old world for it. Yeah.
You said something that really
Struck.
woke me up. I didn't know you was a major.
Yeah, just
Why to become a major? Why go through the ranks? What did that do for you?
my wife asked me the exact same question, and she said to me, "What was the favorite part of the job for you? Where did you find the most pleasure?" And I told her there was no question in my mind. Like every cop I've ever talked to, the times that they recollect the most fondly are the times in patrol. The times boots on the ground, you were out there responding to 911 calls. I don't think there's any other profession, I don't think there's any other job in this country where you can have such an immediate and visceral impact on someone's life. Being a rank and file, sworn police officer in uniform, responding, handling some chaotic crisis, whatever it is, and being able to restore order and to some degree implement justice in terms of you have removed the bad element from whatever it is. You've caused the chaos to stop, and to some degree you've introduced the person who has caused whatever the chaos is into the criminal justice system, hopefully to allow some level of healing or whatever it is. So for me, I mean, there was just no question in my entire 25 plus years, being a cop was the best.
Yeah, patrol.
And I don't know how it is in Baltimore, but the last rank where you had any tenuous connection to what I refer to as real police work was lieutenant. Mm-hmm. So I was a shift commander. I was working Sea Pleasant and Landover. I loved it. I mean, I loved everything about it. Probably about 2.5, 3 years. Well, partway through my rank of lieutenant, the short version is this tech reporter from New York lost his phone. It was very early in the iPhone days, just the iPhone had just been released. He uses Find My, and it's showing up in Sea Pleasant, Maryland, where I happen to work. And of course, he tweets about it and becomes this story. And think back 15 years ago, and I don't even know if Baltimore or PG have any policy now, but just imagine that a tech reporter calls up the Prince George's County non-emergency number, says, "Hey, I lost my phone. It's showing up in Sea Pleasant, Maryland. Will you send a police officer out to get it? 15 years ago."
Right.
And the non-emergency number's like, "What?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, we're not doing that." So I happened to see this, and it was my sector. I was in charge of this whole thing. So I called the squads, and I'm like, "Hey, for evening shift, we're going to have a roll call in front of this guy's house where this phone is pinging off of." And long story short, I got the guy's phone back, right? Wow. That puts me on the map internally of the police department and of our media relations director, and they're like, "Oh, you should try this media relations thing." And as a guy who had spent his entire adult life thinking about being involved in what I thought of as real law enforcement, media relations was the last place I wanted to go. I didn't want any parts of that. I didn't want to talk to the press. Right. The press had been, and certainly to varying degrees even today, had been viewed as the enemy. And I said, no. So I went kicking and screaming, but I did go. And that opened my eyes to an entirely new world in terms of leadership within the department, how leadership views the problems that come in, how and why leadership often see things differently than the rank and file, and why there is that schism. And I also recognize that, if I wanted to really contribute and give back to my community in some meaningful way, then in part I owed it to the men and women in the community and the men and women who were on the police department to, if I was able, use my life experience, use my professional experience to give back in some hopefully meaningful way and take on greater leadership roles. And I think, I hope to some extent I was able to do that.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's everything, man.
I think everybody loves patrol.
Oh, Patrol?
Patrol is
Every
just,
cop I've
you
ever
can make
met.
patrol
Yeah.
whatever you want. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I tried to talk Thomas into joining. I told him he actually would be an amazing cop.
Yeah.
His emotional intelligence is off the scale, and he has a way of connecting with people, which calms down people who are chaotic, and also, building bonds almost immediately. He would have been an amazing cop.
There you go.
He's been pushing hard.
The problem is, he's director of the National Law Enforcement Officers Museum.
So
I don't think I'm going to go from that to Patrol.
Right. Yeah.
So as director, when pieces come in, do you point and place them? Is that like?
So it depends on the project, and really it depends on the kind of level of our staff and who we have in-house at the time. But a lot of times for exhibits, depending on how big of an exhibition it is, we contract out with different design companies, for example, who work with us. And a lot of times, if it's a large enough project, we'll form a committee and we'll bring, subject matter experts in different ways. So for example, on our first major exhibition that we did, which was post 9/11, it was all about how law enforcement changed in the last 20 years as a result of 9/11. So what lessons were learned from 9/11 and then applied within law enforcement. So we brought people to the table who were there, at the trade centers, and who were working in various agencies and departments over the last 20 years that had a direct kind of correlation to that. And then we worked with a design company, and so we informed the design company, right, about ideas and perspectives and the right way to talk about certain things, right language to use. And then they kind of put it together, right? They create kind of a design, and then we walk through the design and see if that's, if we think that's going to be effective for our audience in terms of what we want them to learn and feel in that experience. And then go from there. And then we have people who install it professionally,
Wow.
So it's just right.
Right. No, it is just right.
Yeah.
I would just add, everything in this museum, and you sort of touched on it before, but I don't know if any of us articulated it out loud. Everything in this museum exists to honor the men and women in this profession.
Yes.
This is not the place where you're going to come and find where, I talked before about mistakes and some level of atonement.
Right.
This is the place where if there's any question in your family or your friend, your peer group, or even the men and women, the citizens of this country who have questions about what it is and why law enforcement does it, you come here, you will learn everything that is good about law enforcement. And so that is the lens through which Thomas has built this museum and this place to honor the profession of law enforcement and tell the story of American law enforcement is, how does this showcase the men and women who are doing the good work that we've obviously been talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely a strong reminder for sure.
Yeah, and I think, and in honor of fallen officers that are on the memorial across the street, we really want this place to be the exemplar, right? We want people to come here and learn the best of the best and how law enforcement has evolved to where it is today. And so that's the perspective that we take.
You guys hit it out the park, even with the that exhibition with dealing with movies. And how you guys tied it in was perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Did you all get the opportunity to see the Service and Sacrifice film?
We're gonna do that after.
Oh, good.
I hope you
Okay.
do. I get emotional every time I see the film. I've probably seen it a dozen times.
Wow.
It is a phenomenal film for anyone in law enforcement who and their family, like even if they just want to skip everything else in the museum, which obviously we would not say that, come see this film. Even if you're not in law enforcement, come see a glimpse of law enforcement that I suspect you've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And I dare you to come out of that film feeling in any way negative towards the law enforcement profession. Again, not that we've never made mistakes, but come see this film. Come be challenged emotionally in a way that I think lots of people in this country haven't been before.
Yeah. Well said.
We talk about that all the time. You know, every profession has their mistakes, but for some reason, because we're the easiest ones to pick at, because we're not allowed to respond, in a sense, that's why it's at where it's at, you know? But yes, we will definitely check that out, for sure.
Yeah, this museum definitely paints the picture for law enforcement. It really gives a phenomenal insight on what the job entails and what people should think about. It's overwhelming. It's a beautiful experience. I've never been here. This is the first time being here, and it's a great thing, man, because, you know, now there's always that stigma of law enforcement and they're just bad guys and bad apples and this and that. And that's, unfortunately, that's what sticks out. That's what people love to see. And that's what, you know, they want to portray us as that. But that's why, you know, we're the ones that go out there. That's why you retired over 25 years and still ride blue. And we love it. It's a beautiful thing. The world needs to know that we're here for the right reasons. And we serve with that purpose and inspire others to do so accordingly. So, you know, it's unfortunate, you know, there's bad apples in every profession. It really is. But I want us to stick out for doing the right things. And that's paramount to what we're trying to drive down for people and everybody that wants to do this. But we love it. You guys have any questions for us?
We do.
Wow. I didn't know I had a chance to ask questions.
For sure.
I would've been
Absolutely.
prepared.
You want to,
No, you go. I'm going to think of something.
When I, probably about 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to a public safety leadership program through Hopkins. And I was very lucky to meet almost a half dozen people who were from Baltimore City. And I instinctively knew every single law enforcement professional and certainly all the agencies I've had contact with, I always come away impressed with the caliber of folks, and the folks from Baltimore were no different. And so I'm curious, I know firsthand that the men and women who are in uniform in Baltimore City go to work every day, every single minute under exceedingly difficult circumstances. Being a Baltimore City cop is entirely different than Fairfax County or Howard County or any of the other locales around Maryland. You guys are in really, really tough circumstances. And every single law enforcement agency I'm aware of is undermanned and underfunded and unable to meet their recruitment goals by far. And I suspect you guys are working doubles or triples, mandatory holdovers, mandatory overtime. And maybe you've talked about it before on prior episodes, but I think lots of people across the country have some sort of feeling like, oh, Baltimore is one of those places in the country that has high crime, and it must be by virtue of the caliber of cop that is patrolling the streets of Baltimore, or the department itself, or some combination of the men and women not caring, not showing up, not going to work. I know that not to be true, but you two show up to work even now. How are you feeling? How are you dealing with, there's no question that there's crime in Baltimore, but how do you show up, and how do you feel, and how do you maintain your own morale? How do you represent the department when you're out and about, and how do you feel, broadly about the circumstances in Baltimore, and is there a solution for Baltimore?
Well, from my perspective, I love the job. I love what I do. You know, I'm a positive person to begin with. I don't like negative energy. Negative energy just it brings everything out of you. You know what I mean? It puts you in a bad space mentally. So I'm always positive. I always smile, I always have a good time. So even dealing with, the things we have to deal with in the city, we sign up for it. It comes with the job, unfortunately. And where we are in the city, it's tough. It's a tough gig. It's not like your county or your local, jurisdictions. It's times 10. We're on 100. From the jump, as soon as we clock in. But it's okay. It's all about what's your why. We know what we signed up for. So when we come to work, you're gonna face people talk bad about you. You're gonna deal with in-house stuff that has got nothing to do with you. But you gotta remain professional. When you sign up to do this job, you sign up to be that professional. So if you're having a bad day, you're not supposed to let the world see that. Because it brings you down. it's always said that you're supposed to be the perfect agent of your department. So when somebody sees you, you're supposed to be that ideal officer. They're having a bad day, you're supposed to brighten up their day. A situation starts at a 10 or 15, you got to bring that down to a 5. So they can understand what they did wrong in reference to that situation. You have to remain the ideal perfectionist in this profession. And it's tough at times, but it's okay. Because when you have that real why and you love and serve that purpose, then every interaction should end with the respective parties understanding what happened, what went wrong. Doesn't necessarily have to always lead to an arrest. No. 90% of his job is talking, having a verbal conversation with somebody. And if it starts off wrong and we going out of whack, okay, I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to talk low. While you're talking high, I'm going to talk low, I'm going to bring it down. I want you to understand that I'm here for you. And once we build that rapport is everything. You only get a couple minutes to somebody understand you. And then once you bring them down here and they understand you, build that rapport, it makes the conversation go so smooth. And everything never has to lead to an arrest. It's a conversation. You have to be the best professional it is. So yeah, we have our issues. Like every other jurisdiction have their issues. But I leave work at work. And when I come home, I'm dad. I'm Ralph. I'm a father. I'm a son. And I love to have fun. So, my insight is always have an outlet. Do something, be something other than law enforcement. Leave that at work. When you come home, do something else. Just to keep that thing going, to keep your why going. What you love to do. I love to just be that fun person that people can talk to, laugh and have a good time with. Go out, find other outlets, go out and, draw, paint, cook.
Podcast.
Podcast.
Mm-hmm. Well, what you guys are doing with this podcast is helping to some degree bridge that divide, I would argue.
Absolutely.
Showing people that police officers are not automatons just running around with wild abandon.
Exactly.
Shooting and killing people without any reason.
To me, the best part about our podcast, which is the way we designed it, is so that the community, the civilians, can understand what we're saying. We're not speaking in police language, per se.
Yeah.
So when we break down videos or whatever it may be, we're speaking in terms that they understand. So that's why they're like, oh, they come up to us, I get why, such and such happened. And we're like, yeah, they're like, oh, now we understand. And then that, starts a positive conversation, which is always a great thing, We welcome more conversations and especially any conversation to put us, the profession, in a better light. Because, right now the media just show only the negative aspect of it. But there's so much that happened leading to it.
Did you all get some pushback from your department in terms of, obviously you're not here representing the Baltimore City Police Department, but most police departments have pretty strong policies about how and where you can identify yourself as an employee, the things you say.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys get pushback for that?
No, because we're not speaking as Detective Horton or Detective Severino. We're speaking as Big H or Dre, and we speak highly of the department. It's not bashing policing or bashing the department. It's definitely a lane that we love, and the feedback we get is even commanders that love what we're doing. There's so many people that says, you know what, this has always been needed. It's like a therapy session when people come.
It really is. It really is a therapy session.
Yeah.
Because
it really is.
Not for nothing, we had Peanut King, one of the biggest drug dealers in Baltimore City ever. This guy was making $1 million a week.
Wow.
He did, 28, 30 years?
37.
37 years federal. We met him when he first got home, about 3 months, 4 months from him getting home. And we set up the interview. Of course, he just did 37 years federal. So his engagement with police officers is not going to be a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was locked up in 1982.
And just came home. Mm-hmm. So we had an interview with him. He came on our podcast. The first 10, 15 minutes, it was kind of standoffish because, of course, he just did all this time. He didn't want to come meet with police. But I tell you, I swear it's like a therapy session because when we sat down and just started talking, and the more we started talking, the more we were building. Mm-hmm. And the more we were building, the more we had a lot in common. So that's all it is. Once you have that conversation, and now we're like the best. We talk to each other on a regular basis. He calls Dre all the time. Like, it's a beautiful thing. So it's nothing but a conversation, with calm heads. It's always best like that because the ending result is always paramount on what you want.
That's the biggest example of bridging the gap.
Yeah.
You have current active law enforcement having a conversation with one of the biggest drug dealers. And that's what we want to show society. Like, if we can do it, then everyone else can do it. Mm-hmm. Because you're not at that level that he, reached. Mm-hmm. You're not making $2 million a week. So if he can sit down and have a conversation on how to make a community much better, because that's what he's into. He wants to avoid young black men going through the system.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's his main focus. So it's an example of, if he can sit down and have a conversation with officers, you on the corner can have a conversation with the officers, and let's get to know each other, and we'll realize, a lot of things are not necessary. We're all human beings, and we all want to do the same thing, which provide for our families, shelter, and look nice every once in a while, whatever it may be. But it's just, the trap is how you get it, And what he's saying is, you don't have to go the same route that he went. Mm-hmm. It was a phenomenal episode, for sure. Mm-hmm.
We even had an interview with a fire department lieutenant.
That was crazy.
That despised police.
Really?
He didn't even know.
I didn't even know.
They were good friends.
Yeah.
Still good friends.
Still good friends.
But he's like, he told the son, don't ever talk to police. And we was like, what?
He's a first responder.
He's a first responder.
Mm-hmm. And when we got down to it, it was just the trauma that he received when he was younger.
He was young.
Right.
So he still hasn't healed from that. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, he's passing that along to his child, who's not growing up around that trauma.
Exactly.
His child's not living in Baltimore City.
Right. Yeah.
And we were shocked. We were like, what? And that's just what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing to have the conversation of, your experience, our experience, but we're still friends. It's not like, oh, well, I'm not talking to you anymore. It's just, let's continue to learn and grow.
Mm-hmm. But he got a better perception of police
just
from talking to us. Mm-hmm. So it's needed. It's always needed, and I'm glad we're doing that. And we hear the kickback, but it's not really much now because they know the purpose that we're trying to serve, and it really is commending the department in a bright light.
Well, I'm glad they don't give you any pushback because I think what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
It's got to be part of the solution in terms of convincing the bulk of the American public that this whole thing, this law enforcement profession, it's nuanced, it's complicated.
Yeah, it is.
And every police officer I know wants to be a part of the solution, whatever the solution is, to limit, prevent crime, to keep people safe in their homes. And I mean, that's the entire purpose of the whole profession. So, thank you.
Thank you.
For sure.
It means everything.
Yep. I think here now in Baltimore, to answer your question, that you're being part of the change. People say that, but I think the city of Baltimore is changing. And for me, I could go back and say, I was a part of that change. It is changing. There's things that, like every department, but being part of that change, to me, is what's special.
And of course, there's things that are out of our control.
Right. Right.
But we just, we stay focused. And those that follow, we appreciate it. Wow. It's a beautiful thing.
You two are kings among men.
Thank you so
Anyone in
much.
law enforcement knows that, there are degrees and shades of gray across law enforcement.
Absolutely.
In terms of where you go. And to volunteer and suit up and go to the streets of Baltimore City is not an easy thing. So, thank you.
I don't know. We find it fun.
That's good.
It's a
fun,
unique
yes,
personality
yes,
to do this job.
It is. It is for sure. But we love how you guys mix art with police work.
Right.
That's what it's just, I cannot stop thinking about those hallways and those expeditions. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. I think, every profession and community, they all have different cultures, and law enforcement culture is a really kind of distinct thing. There's a lot of things within law enforcement culture that really specific to the people in law enforcement. And when you're here, I think you can get a little bit more of a sense of what that culture is. And I think that helps people understand each other better.
It is.
And when people have interactions with law enforcement outside of the museum and you're in your neighborhood or driving down the highway or whatever, they're enforcing the law, and nobody likes that. Nobody likes being told they can't do something they want to do, and so you form your opinions right around that type of experience. But when you're here and you can kind of pull back the layers a little bit and you go into history and culture and some of the humanities around this profession, I think I'd be hard pressed to find another place like this within the country.
Definitely.
And so for that reason, I think it's really important.
It's huge because the policing culture, from the beginning, there was good and there was a lot of bad. Policing wasn't very good for a long period of time. It was all for the wrong reasons. But you got to understand the people that we serve that's been in that culture those years. You got to understand their hatred for policing. So you got to understand where they're coming from. So it takes a lot to do this job. You know what I mean? Mentally, you got to do your homework and understand. Well, why do I got to get backlash not to get out the car to say hi? There's a long history. There's different cultures of policing. Even when we came on the job, different cultures that we went into. And every police jurisdiction has that. You got your cultures. Some of them are going to be a-holes. That's just what they do, how they operate. Us being who we are as an individual, I'm not going to treat anybody like that. You want to know why? Because I demand respect. And I love giving respect. I love treating people the way they need to be treated at all times. So I'm not the one that's going to just... I like to say I separate myself. I do, because the way I conduct myself. I don't need to have friends. I don't need to have that guy just blend in. No. You got to treat people the way you want to be treated at all times.
Yeah, going back to when we were talking earlier about how diverse it is within law enforcement, it's as diverse as it is within the country, right? And it's made up of the people from those communities, right? And so when you have people in communities doing great things, then you're going to have law enforcement that reflects that as well. And when you have people in communities doing bad things, and they grew up in that culture and with those ideologies, and it's going to seep up some of the generational stuff where you have fathers and grandfathers and great grandfathers, right, passing things down that aren't relevant anymore, but they still reflect that within the culture. It's problematic, and it's hard to get rid of that, And so that's the challenge, I think, with some of that culture within law enforcement.
Walking through it to touch both of your points, you said history, and you said, the history of it wasn't good. One of the displays you have up is Lucius. I had to look at my phone Lucius Emerson.
Yeah.
Like no one, I didn't know about that. Did you?
No.
That's insane that you guys have that as a display.
Yep.
So now what I'm gonna go back and do is do my homework, because that's an untold story.
Yep.
About the black sheriff that took over the department.
Yep.
During the civil rights movements, right?
Right. Yep. So he was the first black sheriff elected in the Deep South after Reconstruction.
In Alabama, right?
Yep.
That's insane.
And we're good friends with his son, Anthony, who he becomes volunteers. He likes to come and talk to people in the museum about his dad, and they have a lot of programs down in Tuskegee, around his dad and the influence that he's had there. Phenomenal story. 100%.
I think when people come and see that, again, it changes their perspective. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I like the artifacts that we have here on display of his, which are the sunglasses and, his nameplate, right? It's so simple, but it's a part of that uniform that you put on every day. It's the objects that you kind of take for granted, but are really personal to you. It's how it defines you, right? Like I put on my glasses or my hat or my, my jacket, and I'm like, all right, I'm walking out as me into the world, and, thinking about, the side table by the door, get your sunglasses and put on your nameplate and get ready for business,
Suiting up for the day.
Suiting up for the day. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And everybody has that thing to them.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So
what questions you had?
So I do have a couple questions, and I want to go back to what you were talking about, perfection and having to show up every day perfect, right? And that ideal officer in the face of everything that's going on and that you have to encounter. Do you think that having that expectation is realistic? And, does that lead to additional stress that is hard to manage on top of all the other stressors that you have throughout the day? And I'll say, within my team here at the museum, right, in a much different type of professional environment, we grow through failure, right? I create space for my team to be able to fail so we can learn from our mistakes and we can get a little better next time and learn how to avoid those situations. But law enforcement officers don't have that opportunity, right? Because when you fail or when you make a mistake, there are severe consequences, right? And so the pressure of having to smile, right, in the face of somebody yelling at you, is that a realistic expectation? And when we see officers not presenting that level of perfection, do we then form opinions about them in terms of good cop, bad cop, wanting to be there, wanting not to be there, right? So just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that because you had brought that up.
To be honest, it's tough to put that on display all the time. But you always got to count on your partner to be there with you. Because if you're having a bad day and somebody just, takes you to another level, that's when you got to have that tag team.
Yep.
I got it. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because we're human. We are human. We're going to have our good days and our bad days. Yep. But I always have a great day.
Yeah.
Because even if I'm dealing with somebody that's irate, it's okay. I'm still going to smile. Listen, I understand you're having a bad day. Mm-hmm. I've been there.
Yep.
So that conversation is ideal. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let them sometimes they just want to get it out. Get it out. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I get it. You're upset. Listen, go ahead. If you got a curse, let it out.
But that takes a real unique type of person and personality.
No, you have to wear many hats.
Yeah. Many. Yeah.
You got to be a social worker.
Like, not everybody should sign up for that.
I know. It's tough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're gonna join the job just for a check and benefits, the job
seriously,
will expose you.
Yeah.
You are a liability.
Right.
The job will expose you.
Yeah.
Because you don't do this for the money. You really do it to help others.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a calling. Mm-hmm. And to answer your question, to a lot of people, that sense also helps people keep you alive. The fact that you are paying attention.
Yeah.
And yes, it does. Running hypervigilant, has its downfall, but it's what keeps you every shift to come home. Mm-hmm. So I guess it depends on the individual how to manage it. Mm-hmm. Like for us, it's like music. A lot of times it's music. Mm-hmm. That helps us get through a shift and helps us, serve.
I mean, because you get those calls, where you've got a shooting.
Yeah.
And once you get on scene, it's just you. So my vision is like this. I got a victim. Where's my subject? There could be people crowding. The subject could be there trying to play like he's one of the bystanders.
He's watching you, yeah.
And got the pistol on him. Mm-hmm. So you really gotta do a lot in a short period of time.
Yep.
You gotta render aid. You gotta get medics on scene. You gotta get officers to come out to help you secure that scene. Because medics aren't coming in unless that scene is deemed secure and safe. Mm. Then you gotta get other officers following medic. Do a door-to-door canvas. Where's my crime scene tape? It's a lot that goes into a play in the shooting scene. Mm-hmm. It's very chaotic. So you gotta be extremely smart and you gotta be calm. Because when you're speaking on the radio, they can't. If you're upset and excited, that's gonna bring the cavalry because they think you're in a tough situation. So you gotta be real accurate and calm and use that tone so that the dispatcher can hear you accurately. And you gotta let them know what you have, and start getting people on scene. Deem the scene safe. You got a lot to do in the heated situation, and then try going from that to now. I got to deal with a rape. Just left homicide. Now I got to go back 10-8. 10-8's being in service. Got a rape call. Everybody's busy, but you're available now. So now I got to go deal with that.
You gotta go handle it.
Got to bring her or him down. I got to bring her down.
And while you're driving, you have to shift your mindset. Like, okay, I just got off of a shooting. Now I have to switch over to like being compassionate because of what this person just experienced. You have to walk in there. You can't go in there with the same vibe as a shooting as to as to the next call. Something you guys said. The quick story. I was a rookie. We chased this guy for, I think it was drugs. We were downtown. And it just goes to show like how everyone needs to be on point. My buddy catches him because I wasn't going to catch him, right? So my buddy catches him and we're putting the handcuffs, and we were taught, you have to create like a wall of, you're watching the crowd. While one of my other buddies was watching the crowd, there was a gentleman that was watching us arrest the person. He slowly pulls out a gun. And he's basically aiming it because our backs are to the crowd. But one of our buddies that was playing like security guard ended up getting a gun arrest. And it's just like that. The fact that, yes, we're chasing someone for drugs and, we have our backs turned. We're doing our job, but still there's still someone out there that wants to cause harm. Thank God my friend was there. He was doing his job to catch the person that had a gun. That's police work every day.
You just gotta be prepared.
Yeah.
That's it. You can't be laxed, because once you're laxed, that's a problem. Because anything can happen. But I mean, you gotta carry that. You gotta carry that and have that. When that sixth sense talks to you, acknowledge it,
Right.
and understand it. But policing is tough. It's not an easy thing. We make it look easy with us being who we are, but it's a tough gig. It's not for everybody. It's not. So sign up. Come do the right reason. Come here for the right reasons. And actually learn. Learn the job. A lot of officers, they like to get on. I want to get this car. I want to drive the newest car and all that. Learn the job.
Yeah.
That's not important. Learn what you're supposed to do. And you'll have a great career, because we love it.
Yeah. I got another question for you.
Please do.
So, putting on your podcast host hats, what have you all learned from the different interviews and just since you started this show that you've been able to apply to your work? How's it influenced your work at all?
People, like out of nowhere. Jeez, yesterday, what was that yesterday? I went to, I stopped at this, to get something to drink. And this guy out of nowhere, he's like, you on the podcast? I said, yeah. And he's like, Silverback Chronicles. He's like, bro, you're amazing. He said, you and your partner, like, you guys are really talking the way you're supposed to be. He's like, that's never been done before. He's like, I'm hearing it and I'm loving it. I'm loving everything you guys are doing. Thank you. I said, no, thank you. I appreciate you. Feedback is everything. But it's opened the door to so many different opportunities and so many different versions of people of all walks of life. Even when we went to Fogo de Chao, and we enjoying eating dinner or whatever, and this guy's, he kept looking at me. So my partner saw him while he's looking at me. And then he came over to the table. He was like, yo, I saw your episode with John Bernthal. And that's when we was on John's podcast. And he was like, that was amazing. Like, I appreciate you guys, what you're trying to do. So, I think it's all in just the conversations that we're having that's starting to create, even with brass at the job. Some brass that I don't know come up to me and we'll just talk. And they just, I see you box. Yeah, well, I want to get in there with you. And, it's a beautiful thing. So, we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
On the podcast, we also show by day you're a police officer and at night you're a DJ, or, we had an amazing episode with this detective who takes his own money and from his paycheck and buys sneakers to kids that don't have sneakers. And that's how he started his foundation. So we always try to showcase people that are doing more in the community, you know, other than policing. You know, it's tough to go work, 16 hours and then be like, you know what, I'm going to go buy this little kid some sneakers so that when he goes to school on Monday, he has a fresh pair of kicks. You know, that's just extra. He doesn't have to do that. You know? So we showcase a lot of detectives and officers that do that. And we also showcase the fact that, like, we're all human beings. We all, in a way, want to be seen and heard. And we're the platform that does it in a way. And, of course, stories and camaraderie and all that.
Yeah, people, I love stories.
Yeah.
Give me a whole police job. Give me a whole story. What happened?
I don't remember a lot of them. I try to I don't know why. It's just it only comes up in conversation that I'm like, oh yeah. But I don't remember them like,
Yeah.
Because it's
Like,
so
oh
much.
yeah, that did happen. Oh. But
So much.
What is your superhero origin story in terms of this podcast? Were you guys on the same squad, or what did you guys?
yeah, we was all in the same squad. It was like 9 and 10 of us. And we always called ourselves the Silverbacks. I think I started with the name. Because we always travel in the pack. It didn't matter what call it was, we all went. We all snaked through the alleys to make sure everything was clear. Like, the neighborhood knew
It's proactive.
that we was at work. Proactive policing.
Yeah.
And we always, like, all your drug spots, even on the businesses owners loved us. Because, we would park a ghost car. Leave it there. Go finish snaking through the alleys. Go to the hot spots. Make sure everything's okay, so that they saw us. And then we'll go back to the ghost car. We'll go back on the block where there was businesses, and we'll just be visible and visible. We engaged the community. We engaged with the local churches. Everybody knew how we worked, so there was very little crime. It got to a point where, there's, of course, we get new supervisors, new sergeants that come on, and they want to put their own spiel on things. So they thought they were smart by taking us from we was in Sector 1. They took us from Sector 1 and put our squad in Sector 3. The squad from Sector 3 came to Sector 1. Not even an hour into the shift. It's fireworks in Sector 1. Fireworks.
You hear people yelling on the
Shooting.
radio.
I got a suspect running. Fireworks. The major. You can hear him. Have 10, which is our sergeant for Sector 1. Have him jump down to see. I want the original Sector 1 back in Sector 1. As soon as we got back there, crickets.
Yeah.
We gotta know how to police.
And what's crazy is they're like, oh, big dog, oh, big H. Where y'all was that?
Where y'all was that? I said, what y'all doing, man? Y'all testing? Well, the new guys come. Not
take
familiar
advantage.
with the area.
Gotta take advantage.
They feeling too cocky. They showing off a little bit.
Right.
Oh, you new over here and think you know? Okay, no problem. We got something for you.
That's the way it works.
That's the way it works.
They understand.
Yeah.
But also to add to that, we also, one of our fallen silverbacks, he's actually on the wall.
Yeah.
Craig Chandler. So
Craig Chandler.
this podcast has been a big tribute to him and his family. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep.
Because with us, huh?
I was going to say, you two are both detectives now, though.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
You still in the same unit, or you're different?
No, different.
What do you investigate, to the extent you want to say?
He's a shooting detective. I'm in executive protection.
Okay.
Well, I was. Now, we got a new principal, so they sent us to headquarters. So I'm at headquarters now.
All right. Do you guys miss the street?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fun.
for sure.
The street was fun.
For sure.
It's fun. Because you know why? It's fun when you actively talking with the community. The calls are the calls. The calls ain't even crazy like it used to be. If you know what you're doing, you're going to handle the call. If it requires a report, write the damn report. Give them their case number, keep it moving. Streets ain't hard. If I wanted to do drugs one day, we do drugs. The biggest thing in car stops, you get everything in the car stop.
Yeah.
That's when you get guns, drugs, and everything else. It depends on what kind of policing you wanted to do that day. How active did you want to be that day? But the main thing is we're going to get out here, see our regulars, so that they know we're out here.
Right.
Because we're not playing games. We police accordingly. And we have fun doing it.
That's community policing.
Yeah.
Not TikToking, not doing that.
Yeah.
Going out there, you identify who's your drug dealer?
Yeah.
Let them know, hey,
We working.
you're working, I'm working. But I think you should take a break.
Yeah.
And you say hello to your peoples. Just, you know, drive by the schools, say hello. One time we had a problem at one of the high schools. They kept robbing them.
They kept robbing.
They kept robbing these schools, these kids, these students. I'm sorry. So you know what we did? We don't know who's doing it. It's two schools next to each other. We came up with a plan. I mean, we got 8 hours, right? We're like, you know what? We don't know who did it. Let's just go to both schools. We showed up. Hey, principal, how you doing? With officers in the area. What time is lunch? Okay. What time is freshman lunch? Okay. What time is sophomore, junior? Cool. We went to freshman lunch, and it just ran that. Right. We sat at every lunch period at the door, like that. So whoever was robbing the other kids, they saw us, and that right there made them think they're on to us. After that, there was no more robberies for a little bit, and it worked. We didn't put hands on nobody.
Right.
That's community policing. Go inside your schools, saying, you know what, we know somebody's doing something in here, and if we catch you, you're gonna have to deal with us. But we're here.
Yeah.
And that right there was a deterrent.
We wasn't the police that police from the vehicle. We always up close and personal. I want to know what the problem is. Let's talk. Even with the drug guys, don't care if you got a whole block full of them. What's up? I'm Officer so-and-so. This is what we doing. How you guys doing today? And of course, we listen, they watching us. You think we're not watching them? I'm looking at everything body language, everything.
Who's walking where?
Exactly.
To what?
Who goes to the cut over here? Who puts the stash over here? So it's a sign, and we have fun doing it. I'm going to smile with you. We're going to have fun. There's no need for me to, why am I going to engage? We're going to have fun. We're going to talk.
Yeah.
Because I'm learning your system all day, every day. And I'm telling him. And I'm telling Ronnie. And you think it's just me on the block?
Right.
No, I got officers all over.
Tell them the story about when y'all came on the block, big time drug dealers, like when y'all met them, like, we'll make it easy.
Oh, so that's during the riots. Post the riots. Post riots, we, because it was in the Western District.
Pensy and North.
Western District was on fire. So they needed as much police 24/7. So they put us on foot patrol overtime on Pensy and North. It was Pennsylvania and North Avenue. Hot drug block. I mean, it's nonstop. You got zombies.
That's where the CVS burned down?
Yeah.
That right there.
So we was there. Me, Dre, and a couple other officers, but we actively did that overtime. It was fun. We was in our car, and we get out, we walk the block. They were just like, yo, keep them walking. Don't keep them in small pockets. No problem. So we stayed active on that block. So the head drug dealer guy, of the block that ran the block, he saw how we was. So he came up to us, introduced himself like a gentleman.
Yeah.
And he looked the part. Had his glasses on, polo sweater.
Nothing flashy.
Just laid back.
And everything quality,
Yeah. He was a gentleman. And we had a man-to-man conversation with him. And he loved us the way we was. And he said, you know what? I'm going to take care of y'all. Snapped his fingers and said, yo, wrap it up. Everybody left the block.
It was crazy.
I mean, everybody left the block.
Yeah.
Like, literally, the only people on the block were, like, actual people that were going to, like, the stores.
Yeah.
People at the bus stop.
Right.
And we didn't even look for that because they was undermanned while we was there. They wasn't giving us no problems. They just knew how we was. We met him. I'm gonna take care of y'all. Wrap it up. Everybody clear it. It's like roaches when the lights come on. Gone. Everybody. But I mean, it's different when you have a man-to-man conversation. You look a man in his eyes. You give him that firm handshake. He understands where you're coming from. A lot of people can relate to that. So once you feel that temperature, and he's like, yeah, they the real deal.
Yeah.
Well, you two serve as perfect examples. You're exemplars of the best of the profession. I mean,
wow.
I can't imagine that anyone listens to your story and watches your podcast and goes, oh, Baltimore City cops don't care. I mean, you guys are one of two of thousands. And I suspect that there are, many more behind you, your peers,
For sure.
your brothers and sisters in the same uniform who care just as deeply about the city of Baltimore as you do.
Thank you.
I mean, within the department, I try not to talk about the department, but just accolades to like our homicide department, our SWAT team, our, like these are men and women that are like specialists.
Yeah.
I think in homicide, there's a female sergeant, and I want to say, I think her squad is all females. They have like one of the highest closing rates.
Mm-hmm.
They did a whole special on them, on like the women in policing, and these women, they're just, what's the word I'm looking for?
Creme de la creme.
Yeah, because I want to say they're
Top
animals,
notch.
but their tactics. It's amazing to see them work, and it's here in the department, and I'm sure every department has that to themselves or within themselves. But it's the profession. You find your niche, and you just go with it. Ours just happens to be a little bit of everything. Because I think it's because of where we grew up. We come outside. I like to be outside. So it's like, and we just like to talk to people and converse. You'll be so surprised on how far conversation will take you. Seriously. I think that's what the world needs. Just more conversation, like less and more listening instead of like talking over each other and who's right, who's wrong, who's on what side. Let's just have a conversation, and you'll be surprised how, we'll get back together, being the people, and
Unite, man.
Yeah, unite. Go on, thank you.
Too many chiefs.
Yeah.
Right, and it's okay if you're not a chief. Just play your part.
That's it.
And your time will come to be a chief. It may not be in that, lane, but it'll be in your lane if you create your lane. Seriously,
When the time is right.
when the time is right.
Yeah.
But you got to learn. You're not going to be a chief overnight.
No, you gotta crawl before you walk.
For sure. For sure.
It's a process.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
We love it.
Thank you so much for being here.
Nah, thank you for having us. This was amazing, man.
Yeah.
Can you please tell us dates, time, the location of the museum, especially, going into Police Week?
Yeah. So we're open for general admission Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're open for groups. If groups want to come other times of the week, you can make a reservation and come, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. For Police Week, we're going to be open special extended days, May 9th through May 20th. Same hours, 10 to 5 p.m.
Nice.
But really going to keep ourselves open for people who are coming into town and, lots of different schedules and lots of different events. So we want it to be as available as we could here at the museum. So it should be good. I mean, each year during Police Week, the museum just swells. It is just, shoulder to shoulder and, leading this institution and working with our staff. I mean, we just love seeing people here and love seeing the reactions and, the way that people connect with each other, connect with people they don't know, and really just have this be a place that they journey to each year, so we love it. It's awesome and it's exciting that it's right around the corner.
It's coming fast. And, for us, our signature event, maybe the signature event for all of Police Week every single year is the Candlelight Vigil. So this year will be our 35th annual Candlelight Vigil.
Wow.
Where
That's
we
huge.
memorialize the names who have been most recently added to the wall. So before we said 556 names. And that's on May 13th every single year. And it's May 13th this year. On the National Mall, starts at 8 p.m. It's open to everybody from the public. Tens of thousands of people from across our profession and across the country and actually internationally will show up for that. And for anyone who has not been, not just in our profession, but anyone in this country who has any interest in being part of this conversation, I cannot encourage them enough to show up for an event like this. There is something there that is very, very hard to put into words. There's something in the air. There's a feeling and a presence there that is not easily replicated, if it's even possible to replicate it. There is such healing and catharsis, celebration of the men and women who do this job every single day, and memorializing the men and women who very unfortunately and tragically have been recently added to the memorial and all of the other names that they join. We really hope that people will come be a part of that May 13th. And, to the extent that any part of this conversation resonates with anyone inside or outside of our profession and they feel like they want to support us and by extension you, and honor two men just like you, the men and women who serve with you in Baltimore, the entire law enforcement profession. Help us honor the fallen, tell the story of American law enforcement, and make our save for serve. We hope that those folks would at least consider supporting us. They can do that going to our website, nleomf.org. And otherwise, we just cannot thank you enough for coming to help us tell the story.
No, for sure. It's beautiful.
It means everything. What's the podcast so everybody knows?
So it is called Precinct 444, which is named after our address here on E Street.
Nice.
444 E Street, Northwest is where everybody can come and find us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a crown jewel. Crown jewel. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
For sure. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Oh my God. I'm honestly like just honored that this is here.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, I'm just done.
My peoples, we appreciate you. I want to thank these amazing gentlemen for just humbly taking us and letting us experience this. This was overwhelming and breathtaking. I think everybody needs to come
Absolutely.
and view this museum. It's perfect. It's ideal. It's what you want to see for law enforcement. A great example of what it is and where we're trying to go. And everybody needs to come see this. I love it. I love you. I appreciate you. Dre, what you got?
Peace and love and just a sense of pride. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to go back to work now. Seriously. But yeah, peace and love.
Triple C.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
All right, guys, we love you. Silverback Chronicles podcast. Stay safe. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. We'll see you guys next time.